Let's go.
Welcome to Citizen. We got a special guest today from Redbridge, Albert Eisenberg, which is it's close. You know, it's close to you having to produce 1905 Miracle Year papers, but not so close that you're going to be held to that, I guess.
It's the closest name you're legally allowed to have to Albert Einstein
Yeah,
without being Albert Einstein, I tell people.
that's uh, that's yeah. You got to be careful, right? Because you're not too far away. He was in Princeton, right?
Yeah, first Germany, but then Princeton. Kind of coincidence that Albert's from my mom's side, Eisenberg's from my dad's side, so
Nice.
lucky me.
So let's start with you. You grew up. You say you grew up in Philadelphia. What part of Philly?
So partly in Philly itself, and then partly right outside. My mom moved to the least affluent corner of the wealthy suburb for the schools, and so I grew up, I like to say, with all the proto woke kids in the inner main line of Philadelphia. So, growing up, kind of having the experience of feeling like I was not as well off necessarily as the kids I was around, but these were all the kids who ended up being the defund the police people, 10 or 20 years later. And then going to Georgetown University and feeling like, wow, there's a lot of money at Georgetown. There was then, and there's even more now. And just, feeling like I always had to work multiple jobs, very entrepreneurial, starting businesses, kind of gave me a certain perspective. And then working in political marketing and messaging, I know kind of what the overall worldview of the left is, which I think fundamentally is one that does not think America is a good place or has had a positive record in the world. So I'm really well prepared with my work to understand that and then reach the voters that I think we can reach. I know we're going to get into that, but really starting back in my mid-20s in politics, moving back to Philly, thinking the next voter for our side is going to be not some college-educated white woman in the suburbs. And all the consultants, all the money was, let's win back the suburbs. We need to win back the suburbs. Meanwhile, my team, starting out just as me solo and then building, was let's go out on offense with working voters from diverse backgrounds, Black charter school mom, Hispanic working guy in North Philly. That's where our future voters are. So I've made a name for myself in Pennsylvania, putting that into action. Now it's called the political realignment. We didn't have that name for it 2015, 2016, 2017, but that's what I was working on.
So you've worked with, let's call it non-traditional conservatives, or I guess maybe it's better to say you've worked on recruiting non-traditional conservatives for a pretty long time now. I think it's always been weird the way that we carve out this group or that based on certain characteristics that have nothing to fucking do with what a liberal is or a conservative is. And we'll get into it as we go further in this conversation, but all these words have been captured, so you got to be careful about definitions. Liberal doesn't mean leftist, certainly, and conservative doesn't mean neoconservative either. So just want to tighten up the language a little bit. But you've worked with these folks who want limited government, who want to keep things the way they were, institutionally speaking. That's what a conservative is, by the way. It has nothing to do with their job or race or gender, or I guess sex. Gender's not real, but their sex or any of that shit, or who they want to bang or any of that nonsense. Those are really like completely separate from this conversation, and it's odd to me that it has been included in the conversation. And you know why? It's just a wedge issue, right? You're trying to, I guess, negatively impact the brand of your opponent, which is a legitimate political tactic, certainly. But when you're doing it to the detriment of the country and creating division, I think now we've got a fucking problem, right? But that's kind of the standard these days.
Definitely. I mean, I think that the biggest problem on our side of things is a lack of vision. So all the data, all the movement of voters, the reason we won narrow majorities in Congress, the reason we flipped a U.S. Senate seat in Pennsylvania, the reason Trump won all 7 swing states is the movement of non-white working voters away from the Democrats over the last 6 to 8 years, first Trump term onwards. And we know that. The consultants know that in theory, but they don't view these voters as potential voters for us. They haven't put it into action. So I call them future Republicans because these are people, and you don't have to poll it. You don't have to spend money on a big focus group or a poll. Just ask your cashier at the supermarket or your Uber driver what they think. And you're riding around talking to people, which is my job. And let's talk just regular average working black guy in Philly, worried about crime, doesn't want to pay taxes. You get to the gender stuff in schools, they're not happy about it. And we have to realize within communities that we're talking about, just like within, okay, we're both white guys, right? We contain multitudes. And within the black voter groups, Hispanic voter groups, you got, a third to 40% are going to be culturally conservative. Maybe a third are going to be sort of moderate, a third are going to be liberal. And even within those distinctions, that contains a lot of different things also. So we got to go after the ones that we know agree with us on the major issues and get in front of them.
Yeah, I mean that's a group. I would say Hispanics too, especially first, second, third generation Hispanics in the South. Hispanics in major cities are going to differ to some degree. People that have been here for a while, but people that are freshly Latin and Catholic aren't really into all this weird bullshit. For the most part, I think that's a really interesting cohort. I think gay men are a really interesting cohort because they've been lumped in with a group of psychotic people that they definitely don't agree with, and who have co-opted their movement in a big way. And also, they have historically been one of the biggest recipients or biggest beneficiaries of conservative economics. If you've never heard the phrase DINKS, it means dual income, no kids. And they've been living the high life for a long time. And when there's a recession, it fucking sucks. You know what I mean? For everybody. So I think there's like a lot of, I mean, you shouldn't care what somebody's doing in their private life. You definitely shouldn't care what their immutable characteristics are, especially considering they've opted into the ideology that you also believe in, or that they're willing to do so. We are a creedal society. We're not a race or I guess our nationalism is exclusionary based on creed, not on any kind of immutable characteristic. It is an opt-in society, as it was designed to be. So you, as a human being, should be looking for people who are willingly trying to opt into it. You know what I mean? That should be our standard for creating enclave, I think.
Yeah, and if you want to find some of the most proud Americans, you're going to find people who came here the right way, who have worked hard, who are teaching their kids to work hard. A lot of those people are Hispanic, Asian, African immigrants in, Philadelphia and Atlanta, in Nevada, and they moved over to us. So, one thing that's interesting, city voters are left in general. Philly's more blue than the state, but actually the Hispanic majority precincts in Philadelphia voted more Republican than the city as a whole. A lot of those people are Puerto Rican. They've been here for generations. Lehigh Valley, a lot of Puerto Rican voters, a lot of Dominicans in Northeast PA. Really, especially when you're talking people who are conducting their lives in Spanish, these are voters that are really culturally conservative. And I have more than, I can speak decent, I can understand, let's say. I had more than one voter last year, or in 2024, bring up the gender and school stuff without prompting of what their kids are coming home from a public school talking about, which is wild. And the left's overreach, not just on economic issues, which really made people suffer, the overspending, the inflationary spending, but also on the LGBT, the gay issues. And, I work on that nationally as well, of working with normal gay and lesbian adults. And there's transgender people too, who say, we don't want kids. This wasn't what we were talking about. We were just saying, leave us alone. That's what the LGBT establishment said, is like, leave us alone. First, it was, don't interrupt us, don't knock down our doors to see who we're screwing, basically, right? And then it was, we just want to love who we love. Let's get marriage. A lot of conservatives are fine with that. Respect for Marriage Act passed in 2022 with, I think, 30 Republican supporters. Not that controversial. And then the overreach, and then the people who said that they wanted to be left alone ended up claiming scalps and going on a crusade and involving people's kids. And people don't want their kids involved in radical gender theory. And it's caused the polls to go down for support for gay marriage, which is a real problem. And it's a problem across our societies that the left has felt like they can use these identities as a cudgel for creating radical social change. And the people from the communities, myself being gay, working with a lot of Hispanic voters, Jewish voters, Black voters, we're saying we don't use us for your radical social means. We just want to kind of go along to get along. We're regular Americans.
Yeah.
And elevating those voices is very powerful.
Yeah, I think from the conservative perspective, for a very long time, it's been, well, let's spend, and to some degree it makes sense, let's spend our time and money where it's most effective. But you never updated your filter for that, right? Because again, we are a creedal society, and if you allow the other side, if you want to call them that, to dictate the terms of the battle, I mean, you're basically you're on the playground about to play basketball, and you're letting them choose both teams. You know what I mean? This is fucking ridiculous. This is not how any sane person would operate. No, you go into the city, like I kind of tongue in cheek over the years, I've said that the Democratic Party has hung welfare over black people to get their vote for fucking decades. And at least the conservatives had the I guess, common decency to ignore them altogether. You know what I mean? Instead of doing that. But that's not, that's nihilistic. There's quite a bit of opportunity there. I don't think that black men want to send their kids into schools like that. As a matter of fact, I know they don't, right? There's no tolerance for that in that community. So what are we doing to stop that? You know what I mean? Because that is a legitimate conservative versus liberal issue. That is, or leftist rather. That is, hey, this is like what a fucking family looks like. This is our culture and our country, and this is how we respect it. Even though we know that they did some dumb shit, it was the progression of 2,000 years of Western civilization, right? That's something that anybody can buy into. That's a conservative idea, and it's a leftist idea to try to go so crazy with empathy that you just allow every lunatic out onto the street, which is what we've done.
100%. So I'm in conversations with political campaigns, GOP stakeholders all the time. And the first step is you have to recognize that within these communities, there are people who agree with us and they deserve to hear our message. And that's a foundational paradigm shift. Is like, okay, these voters could be our voters. That's a psychological change. And that happens, as you know, I mean, these campaigns raise and spend hundreds of millions of dollars. Kamala spent over $1 billion. For the consultants who run the shop, the general consultants, the people that create the messages and put them out, target voters, you have to realize that these voters are within potential swing voters, and you have to get in front of them with a compelling message. Sometimes it has to be in Spanish. Sometimes it has to be in English. Sometimes it has to be on urban radio. Sometimes it has to be on a billboard. It's not, hey, I'm a mail guy. This is how it works in my industry, by the way. I run a political agency. People who are mail vendors, their solution is, I'm going to create some mail and send it out. There's consultants that are TV guys. They want to create one TV spot, put it on broadcast and cable, and get 10% of that buy. That's not how people consume information anymore. People are on social media. People are streaming 4 different channels, 4 different apps on their TV. And you got to place ads for individuals and communities on those apps. So Trump's team in 2024 was really, really innovative with the outreach to younger voters, both on the, organic, like going on podcast type thing, showing up at the, what was the sneaker con kind of thing,
Yeah.
and placing ads in front of people for urban voters, on the LGBT stuff, on economics, inviting people in. But for Senate campaign, I mean, you're talking U.S. Senate seats. There's 100 of them. 5 to 7 are going to be contestable this year, realistically, right? In 2026. I can guarantee you right now, 0 of the Republicans in any of those races is spending any money translating their stuff into Spanish or doing black voter outreach. And those are the 2 groups. Trump's pollster said it yesterday. Tony Fabrizio did a big session with Susie Wiles and a bunch of stakeholders, 75 people in the room. Hispanic voters are our swing voters. So we've got to build them into our campaign plans. So me and you, I mean, I have some power to do this because I raise money and I run a PAC about this and I talk to people, and you can advocate for this too. But like the consultants that are running the North Carolina Senate race, you've got to build this stuff into your campaigns.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anybody, this is we've run into this problem, I think, in the corporate world as well, where there are a lot of people in marketing still that don't know what the fuck they're doing. I mean, they're still talking about print ads and whatnot. It's like, I get calls when I was the VP of marketing at Black Rifle. I used to get called about placing print ads a lot. I'm like, come on, man, what are you doing? Like you can see our company. We're all digital. There's no version of this where that happens.
Right.
Yeah, you got to go where the eyeballs are. You got to go where the intersection of affinity is. And I think most importantly, you have to understand trends. You have to understand human psychology. So the first person that I'm targeting, and this is such an easy thing to accomplish and something that's so often overlooked in political campaigns, especially. I want to create firebrands. I want a really good short form advertisement to get the people that are the most interested in it to come look at my longer form content and really understand the issue, because that person's going to go out and explain that issue to a bunch of other people, and it costs me no money for that to happen. It's quite a bit better than earned media, because especially as divisive as the I guess broadcast and cable media is these days, you're very rarely talking to somebody who doesn't already agree with you. You know what I mean? So earned media is what it is, I guess. Maybe in the local markets that's effective, but in the nationwide market, it's very ineffective. You're just preaching to the choir. If I can get a guy who's smart, a woman who understands an issue, especially pertaining to their community, and get them off of that first ad and into my 10-minute video or my long-form podcast or whatever it is to truly understand what I'm trying to say, then that person goes out and they work for you for the rest of that campaign, whether they know it or you know it or not, right? This is something that we've done in marketing for years, create firebrands through loyalty programs and all this other shit. And for some reason, I've quite literally never seen it in a political campaign, which I've worked several over the course of my civilian career. I just don't understand it. This kind of day one stuff, but you just don't see it.
Yeah, and I didn't share this, but when I came out of college, English and art background, I'd started a t-shirt graphic design business, very entrepreneurial. I worked at a social media marketing agency for my first 2 years in New York, figuring out it was the wild west of Facebook. It was called Facebook then. It was the only platform you could advertise on, and you could literally download the entire back end onto an Excel sheet, and you could figure out, did the orange ad or the red ad or the blue ad drive the person to install the app or click on the website and purchase, the cleaning product or whatever we were doing. And that was my initial background coming into politics. I wanted to apply those skills, that targeting and measurement. We have all these tools at our disposal, and the Republican campaigns especially, not all of them, not all the time, but we're operating on a 2000s model, specifically with your paid media, with where they're spending most of their budgets. And another thing I'll say, grassroots is really big. So, it doesn't have to be super expensive, but like we did a voter registration drive in Pennsylvania in key targeted areas. So my team ran it. We hired a friend of mine who does just grassroots bilingual work to show up in Hispanic communities in Spanish and English, register new Republican voters. It's the exact type of work we're supposed to be doing. I asked my friend, Nadir, who helped me run it. His name's Nadir Perez. He runs a firm called Ven Vamos. And if people are looking, by the way, if you have people listening who are interested in grassroots Hispanic stuff, get in touch with Nadir. I said to Nadir, who was the best volunteer we had? And he told me this guy, Jonathan. He gave me a couple names. I called Jonathan. I hired him for the cycle. He's connected in the community. He's a self-starter. He's fluent in Spanish and English. He's the right person to get in front of these voters. So the firebrand happens with digital. It can also happen in person. That's naturally. We're social animals.
I mean, it seems obvious.
A lot of stuff seems obvious, Dan.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll tell you one thing else other that's obvious, because people are mystified by politics and the money that's spent. You have two levers in politics, basically. You can turn people out who agree with
Mm,
you, and you can persuade more people who are going to vote for
mm,
you. So we have turnout and persuasion. On the conservative side, on the Republican side, everyone's focused on turnout. We need more of our voters out. If we had turned out more of our voters in New Jersey and Virginia, we would have won XYZ. We're not going to win on turnout alone
mm.
because Democrats have a more upper educated and more active base at this point. They turn out. It's part of their dogma,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We need to do more persuasion.
Yeah. Tim Swarns in the, he wrote a piece for USA Today the other day, actually. I think it was Monday or Tuesday that came out. And the headline is Trump's economy is resilient, so why doesn't he get more credit? And I'll tell you why. It's because nobody from the Trump administration has spent the time explaining what the fuck is going on to people. There's a lot of high-level stuff going on that
Right.
is fundamentally reshaping the American economy. I mean, and like forever, it's reshaping the American economy. I talk about this on my show all the time. I don't think people really understand what these moves are and why they're being made.
Right.
Like the isolation of China and Russia's economy and Iran's economy to thwart BRICS,
Right.
to maintain the petrodollar, which some people kind of have some understanding of that. But getting foreign investment in a time when your currency has been stretched pretty thin. Keep in mind we've had 80-ish% inflation since the year 2000. When your currency's been stretched, one of the ways that you can shrink it back is to capture dollars on the open market, whether they be real or digital, since we're a fiat currency, and bring them back into the U.S. market and buy back treasury bonds or buy back debt. That's one way you can create legitimate deflation in currency, make the dollar more valuable. And that's been happening. All these deals that we're signing for people to come to bring their products here, forget about the tariff revenue, although that is a nice thing, but to produce their products here, to use their U.S. dollars that they have right now to invest back into our economy, which we've then 4 or 5 times now, and we've been doing it a little bit over the years, but 4 or 5 times now just in this administration, use it specifically to buy back our own debt, which is a double hit, by the way, because the debt goes away, plus we remove currency off the open market. That creates a deflationary period. That's why tariffs have not, one of the reasons that tariffs have not created more inflation, right? Nobody knows this. Why? This is the way I explained it to you just then is very consumable. That's exactly what happened. I'm sure somebody smarter than me can make a little cartoon and show money floating from one piggy bank to another or whatever the fuck, or marbles in a jar like that guy used to do back in the day. This is really easy stuff, but nobody's explained it. And I agree with you. There's on persuasion, it comes from a very a haughty place. Like, what do you mean you don't believe this? It's like, no, that's not how you talk to
Right.
somebody.
Can't you see what we
Yeah.
see?
Yeah. Like
Aren't you
explain the
seeing
fundamentals to
this?
people. It's very easy to explain the fundamentals of this stuff to people. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like why is reindustrializing America a smart thing to do? Because supply chain and energy are national security interests of ours. Germany right now, for example, one of the primary reasons Russia is still hammering Ukraine is because Germany is spending more money on Russian energy today than they were before the fucking war started.
Right.
That is one of the primary reasons.
Despite all their virtue signals.
Yes. So if you just do the right things economically, all the security stuff gets much more easy to deal with, right? And by the way,
Right.
security, aside from internal health and welfare spending, is our number one expense. We can shrink this down by being smarter with our economy, which, by the way, helps the economy as well. Again, not very little in the way of explaining this stuff. And this is not an indictment of the Trump administration specifically, because they are doing the right thing, but it's not enough to do the right thing. You've got to tell people what you're fucking doing.
Yeah. There's a lot there, Dan, and you're at the heart of some really core systemic issues with not just with President Trump and his administration, but with the entire Republican campaign apparatus and all the nonprofits, all the entities that are around us, which is, first of all, with Trump, for somebody who markets himself so well, he does not market his accomplishments well. And that's also the RNC's fault. And it's also his political team's fault. And it's also our congressional stakeholders' fault because there are things, how about the border being secure? That's a big accomplishment that we got basically no credit for. How about Doge, which should have been broadly popular
Mm.
based on what the government was spending on? And you look, and it's conservatives talking to conservatives. Can't you see how outrageous this is? No, people are consuming the same media as us. If they're not opting into conservative media, they're not hearing it. So we have to tell them in a language that feels reputable and hits them where they are getting their information,
Yeah.
which is not on conservative media.
Right.
So there's that. I also like to say, again, I'm speaking very simply because this is not that complicated. We have a MAGA plus coalition that won us our victories in 2024. We have a MAGA base, a lot of Republicans, people who are sort of MAGA adjacent, skeptical conservatives, right? And then we have millions of first-time Republicans that voted Republican for the first time in November of 2024. And we immediately stopped messaging to those people. We know who those people are. They're younger, they're more diverse, a lot of Hispanic voters, especially, a lot of black voters, a lot of younger men. Those are the people that we should be doing everything to reach. And it's not too late to do it, but we do need to do it.
What would you what would you recommend? What's the best outreach strategy for those people?
I think it's got to be a number of things. I think it's got to be some combination of, first off, remembering that they came to us once, they can come back if we reach them the right way. So the vision has to be there for every campaign. Let's just say North Carolina, US Senate, toss up seat. Identify those voters, where are they getting their information, and then create, which is what my firm does. And I don't mean to come in here like I have a hammer, so everything's a nail, but you create messages that we know are going to work for those voters explicitly, and then get in front of them early and often. You would not believe the amount of campaigns that tell me, yeah, Hispanic voters, that sounds interesting. That sounds like it'd be nice to have. Let's talk after Labor Day. Are you seeing what the Democrats are doing? They have always on PR operations. They have the media. We need always on PR operations. We need to be doing this messaging now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's we complain a lot that about the how the electoral cycle works and how it affects particularly the House. If you're a freshman member of the House, good luck, right? I mean you get maybe 2 months where you're actually doing stuff because you have to learn what the fuck you're doing, and then you have to go back to fundraising after.
Yep.
And fundraising is what it is, but all of this stuff gets quite a bit easier if there's a persistent messaging machine, somebody that's just explaining stuff. I remember in, I think it was the 2012 presidential cycle, Bill Clinton was traveling around with Obama and kind of got dubbed the chief of explaining shit or something like that. I can't remember exactly what they called him, but he would go have.
That was the exact title, I think.
Yeah, it probably was actually. I attended a couple of them just because I was curious what he had to say, and he would stand on stage for 45 to 90 minutes and explain detailed policy stuff to people. And he's a charismatic guy, so it's pretty well accepted. There are people that can do this. Those people exist. The problem is that our best and brightest at doing it right now are serving in positions. I think Scott Bessent and Marco Rubio are probably two of the better speech givers right now. Rubio is certainly at the Munich conferences, but he's got, I don't even know how many jobs this poor guy has at this point. He's the king of some country that we don't even know of yet, probably. And I think,
Cuba.
Yeah, I think he's going to manage the Miami Marlins in a month when baseball season starts too. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's like there's got to be some persistent surrogacy program, and that's the RNC's job, right? It's that and as a matter of fact, aside from fundraising, that's their only job, is to have a constant messaging faucet on
The infrastructure.
Yeah. So where is it? That's a good question.
I really feel that there's a fundamental, it's sort of like, was it Polaroid in the 80s or Kodak? Like these companies, it's an incumbency. Like they exist, they have this position, they are the go-tos, they fundraise, and they don't innovate.
Yeah.
And the country and our attention economy has changed so rapidly and so quickly, and we just really haven't caught up as far as the way we operate campaigns. I do think there's some change. I think Republicans get it, but we need to put it into action sooner. And I'll just give you like another example. So, what does promises made, promises kept sound like to our target voter? The voter that isn't sure if they're going to vote Republican again or vote Republican for the first time. It could be, law enforcement in cities. It could be charter schools. It could be the Maduro capture for Venezuelans who are overjoyed and this went around on Spanish media, or it could be Puerto Ricans who completely over-index
Mm.
in two of the Pennsylvania congressional districts that are going to determine our majority, two in New Jersey, multiple in New York and Florida, who their relatives on the mainland of Puerto Rico can't get electricity regularly. They're rolling blackouts on the island of Puerto Rico. These voters can vote the day after they move to America. They're over-indexed in swing districts. So President Trump and his political staff can ring the bell and fix a problem like we did with the Maduro capture. We are liberating Latin America from a Chinese, Iranian vassal state.
Mm-hmm.
And you can fix that problem. And then you can say what you said earlier, Dan, which is, hey, promises made, promises kept look like X, Y, and Z. We have restored regular power for your poor abuela in Puerto Rico. Could you please consider supporting us for the first time? You're welcome in our party. So it's accomplishing things, which the admin's doing. We have things to talk to people about. And then it's actually creating the messages and the grassroots, all the outreach stuff to people who don't normally hear from us. That's what we need to do more of.
Yeah, I mean that's that you also have to tie it back to conservatism in a smart way, and I think it's a very easy sell, to be honest. We believe in America. We believe in the founding principles of America, and one of those founding principles is that some of those founding principles are things like equal protection under the law. Just because you're over there and you're easy to forget doesn't mean you don't deserve the same treatment as everybody else. One of those principles is that we don't let that one of the only reasons government even exists is to stop people from preying on you. And so far, the people of Puerto Rico are about $2 billion into a fucking lawsuit to get their power restored that has no end in sight. One of those things, excuse me, that is a fundamental principle is the idea of individual liberty and entrepreneurship. And it's impossible to do without infrastructure down there. So we build the infrastructure that it takes to live the American dream. That is a simple conversation to have with people. And you mentioned people that get stuck in modalities. I mean, if anybody that's been to business school knows the story of the railroads, they thought they were in the railroad business, and what they were in was moving people and stuff business. And when trucks came along and when airplanes come along, they were way at the back of the line. And to some degree, They never recovered. There should be a Union Pacific airline today, and it should be the best airline that's ever existed because they had an advantage over everybody else, but they didn't see it, right? And that's where we are right now with this media stuff, and we're too far into it. It's been going on since, I mean, the true first digital campaign was 2012 with Obama, and they crushed it. Now what they're doing, it's Cambridge Analytica in 2016 was good, but since then it's just been kind of fire and forget, hit and miss stuff. It's very underwhelming.
Yeah, and it's not just the data. You need a core message that resonates with people, and that involves listening to them and hearing what their priorities are, and then creating that. And that's all I do. It's create compelling messages for people who don't realize they're conservatives yet. It's like that. So, one of my favorite ads that we did in Spanish, and I love a billboard, by the way, Dan. Like, I love digital. We do multi-channel. It's not just, hey, I'm the mail guy, let's do mail. I'm the digital guy, let's do digital. Let's reach people all over the place in multiple touches. We had a billboard up in 2022. By the way, Hispanic voters delivered the House for Republicans in 2022. Everyone saw it in 2024, and that's the common knowledge now. The shift in Hispanic voters in just 2 years was enough to secure narrow congressional wins in 2022. My favorite billboard we had up in Lehigh Valley in Northeast PA was in Spanish, and it said, "Hard work, the American dream, I am a Republican." And it said, "Miguel Hazelton," and it was a dude with a construction hat on, Hispanic guy, just a picture in Spanish. And that is such a blaring signal for people driving by it every day, thinking, this is what I'm instilling in my family. This is my values. This is why I moved here. That's branding. That's way up funnel. It doesn't ask for anybody's vote. It creates an emotional resonance towards a brand.
But not a fabricated or or one or a platitude. It's a real
Right.
thing, right? It's a real human
Right.
being that's happened to. I'll add to that. This is a uniquely conservative message that we are conserving our culture and the homeland, and people who qualify get to come here and partake in that. Right now, what we've done is in the for the majority of our history up until the 80s and some of the early 90s, that's been the standard. And then we just started letting every slapdick come here. So, Jose and his wife, who moved here from some shithole, who, left their home country because they were being preyed upon by some gangster or another, came here, built a life for themselves, and all of a sudden now that same asshole gangster is now living down the street from them, preying on them
Right.
again. What does that say about us as a country? No, this is not in any way acceptable, but that is a message you can say. This is a conservative principle. We are trying to conserve America for the people who deserve it. And you, an immigrant who came here the right way and did the right stuff and contribute, are among those people who deserve it. That is
Right.
a fine thing to say, and it's a smart thing to say as well, and nobody is saying it.
Yeah, and you don't have to lie to people. I mean, people who didn't come here the right way committed a crime. It's illegal. You don't have to change your language. You don't have to open your borders. You don't have to lie about it. But you do have to be humane in how you talk to people. And I think one of the fundamental, I wish we had more messaging clarity. And, here's something that makes sense to regular people. Hey, we opened the border under the last president. 15 million people, 20 million people came in here illegally. We're not tracking all of them. We have a lot of tough decisions ahead, and there's going to be pain. And that's hard. And I'm sorry about that, but we do have to enforce the law. That is a broadly popular thing to say. That's got to be the message. Kristi Noem, it's not the messenger. She's really alienating. And that's what pisses me off on our side, is when we alienate people that we should be attracting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this isn't the United States versus our Hispanic community. It's the United States versus assholes who didn't do things the right way. The same way it's when we're arresting gangsters or white collar criminals. It's the U.S. versus people who prey on other people. That's what we're doing, right?
Yes.
It's an easy message. People give Homan a hard time sometimes because he uses kind of brutal language, but then I always point them to him talking about rescuing the kids. Like, this is a dad and a grandfather. This is why
Right.
he's doing this stuff. He isn't like I've talked to the dude plenty of times. I agree. He's on the enforcement side. He's kind of a pit bull. So I don't think that you want enforcement and PR being the same guy, probably. It just sends a mixed signal, right? Although he does some of it because he genuinely cares about this stuff. And again, he's worked in immigration since the fucking late 70s, maybe, or early 80s. I can't remember when he started. I think it was 84 when he started. Yeah, that's having the right person in the right position to send your messages is
Yeah.
an important thing, right?
And here's something else that's free. Get bilingual Spanish speakers as spokespeople and put them on Spanish language media. Just do it. It's
Yeah.
free.
You mentioned something earlier I wanted to circle back to before we end up out of time. You said proto woke, and this is like, I would imagine sometime in the 80s and 90s before it had a name, but you could already see it. People, I guess, participating in grievance politics is the way I could understand woke. What did you see growing up? What was it? Was there like a significant cultural shift from one point to another, or is it just like kind of gradual, or how did it happen in your neck of the woods?
It's so it's just what the water temperature was. It's so like endemic to these sort of upper middle class, suburban, everyone's going to college type areas. These are the kids that are the staffers on the Hill, and they're running the nonprofits, and they're in the corporations. But it was, for me, it was born in 91. So I was in high school between '05 and '09. And it was the kids, all of whom came from their parents were together, mine weren't. They were more financially comfortable with my family, and I was very aware of that. They were all the ones who were the, advocates for the suffering people of the world. And if you didn't agree with their opinion on it, you were evil. And that was always just kind of in the background. I remember having very robust debates in, US government classes, history class in high school. So I've always just been outspoken and just like said what I think should happen, and have never made apologies about it. I just remember people being hectoring and kind of doing that social thing where they're like, oh, you don't believe that, America's bad, then you're bad.
Mm.
And then I went to college in 2009. I went to Georgetown. So I was there '09 through 13. And it got really, it was cresting this sort of wave. And I remember one specific girl. She was also, so I was gay. I had just come out. So I was, knew a lot of the gay kids on campus who were more left leaning, not all of us, but some of them were. I remember one girl telling me, I said something was crazy. She said, "Don't say crazy. That's marginalizing people." I said, "Well, what am I supposed to call stuff that's outside the norm like that? And what does saying a different word do?" I mean, it's so Orwellian. Like, what
Mm.
does switching the word for something that you're more comfortable with do to what I'm describing besides slow me down and put a filter over the reality we're supposed to be talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. It's thought terminating exercise is what it really is, right?
Yes.
Good ideas stand up to criticism and debate, and bad ideas don't. And if somebody is trying to stop criticism and debate, they don't believe their idea. It's as simple as that.
Right. And that's the real classical liberal is
Mm.
more speech is good speech. And I think this, I mean, I work on a lot of different issues. I work on Jewish issues. I'm very pro-Israel. I think Israel's a defender of humanity. I don't think calling everyone an anti-Semite to shut down debate is necessarily a productive response. But I also see other people saying, well, that's just an Israeli talking point. That's a way of shutting down debate too.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how this stuff is weaponized language-wise. And I remember taking an Orwell class. Everybody should read Politics in the
Mm.
English Language, the essay, as well as 1984, because again, simple. We're talking simple stuff today. It shows exactly how they weaponize technology and group thought to suppress truth.
Yeah, it is, it is an interesting thing. The Israel thing. I don't understand. I mean, it's certainly been a wedge for some amount of time, and right now you're seeing some true horseshoe effect when it comes to grievance politics.
Yep.
Some of it is postmodern, some of it is post-liberal from the right, but either
Yep.
way, they're engaged in this, I guess, struggle for power. And power is not a conservative argument. When a conservative sees a weapon of power in government, they destroy it. They don't use it. Right? That is how we do things here. So when you hear people engaged in these conversations, especially when they're so inconsistent, then I've got to challenge it. I don't care if people are individually pro-Israel or anti-Israel. I don't care. I mean, I don't know why you would be anti-Israel. That's a weird position to take. But if you can't look at the fundamentals on the ground and see that they are living the manifest destiny that America did, we view this from the lens of modernity, but they're fighting 7th century assholes. You know what I mean? Trying to establish a country. They found a plot of land that had people on it, including them, by the way. They were there too.
Yes, for millennia.
Yeah. They found a piece of land that was undeveloped. They cleared it and developed it, turned it into a highly functioning country, and now they get heat for it all the time, which is, by the way,
Right.
exactly what the United States did. So the people that are criticizing Israel in that way, if you want to criticize their intelligence operations or something they did in war or another, or the way that they spend money in foreign markets, including our own, to message and stuff like that, that's fine. Whatever. We can debate those finer points. But if your problem is that they did what they had to do to exist, then you don't believe in America either, because it's the same goddamn story. And I just don't understand that fundamentally, how people can go back and forth like that and call themselves America first while still espousing that nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, I think one argument that has not been made nearly enough, and we're talking right now, by the time this podcast comes up, one of our two major fleets that are in the, Iranian waters might be active. So we could be escalating against Iran. They wake up every morning and they say, "Death to America, death to Israel." If you think supporting that regime or opposing its opponents or opposing, if you think burying our head in the sand with people who are training their children to kill us, not just our military, to kill our civilians around the world for 50 years, they have a record of doing this. If you think that's somehow pro-America, you need to educate yourself. And it's been another missed messaging opportunity on our side to say, these people have been killing Americans for decades. Not only are they killing their own people, and by the way, 40,000 potentially Iranian civilians murdered by their own regime. Whatever the atrocity that Israel supposedly committed in Gaza, there's no, even Hamas doesn't say that more than 70 or 80,000 civilians, they don't say it, they don't distinguish between civilians and combatants, but Iran's killed that many people in a matter of weeks, half of the people that Israel has killed in since October 7th, which was an offensive attack, obviously. There's a lot there. I think one of the primary overarching points is that anti-Semitism, you swap out Jews for Zionists, which is basically what's happening. It's always been used as a way of diverting and manipulating people in times of strife and societal chaos. It was true in the Weimar Republic. It was true in Bolshevism. It was true in the Spanish Inquisition. You have to view it not just, people are perplexed about the anti-Semitism issue, including a lot of Jews. It is a symptom of a society that is spinning out and doesn't trust its institutions. It's not its own thing. And people should have their antennas up when they see anti-Jewish stuff going around. They should have their antennas up to think, who's trying to manipulate me and divert blame? Who's trying to leverage my pain and the dysfunction of the society around me to get me to do something?
Yeah. I mean, that's how it works with the different groups. And they're the inverse of each other. So from the Marxist side, what they will do is try to marshal all of the offended people into one enclave and have them work together, right? Which is why the red-green alliance is a thing. I've tried to explain this to people. Like, this alliance between leftists and Islamists is pretty old. It's older than most people listening to my voice right now, and it always works out very poorly for the leftists, by the way. They end up dead, ejected, or in prison. But that's the Marxist plan. The leftist plan is to find everybody with some kind of grievance, put them in a group, and use that grievance politics to ride the wave into power so they can capture power for themselves. Because, of course, I've got to be in power with total power to be able to help you guys. That's the only way we can do it. From the other side, from the fascist side, from the far right-wing side, they pick one group. And it's like, you know what? Those guys are to blame for all of our fucking problems. And for some reason, it's the Jews all the time. I think it's because it is a considerable diaspora, both in size and in how well they do, no matter where they go.
Oh, yeah. If you leave us alone, we do pretty well.
Yeah.
And most of us just want to contribute. But there's outliers. There's bad people among Jewish people, too.
Sure, there's assholes everywhere. I mean, look, you're not going to find a whole lot of support in Israel for Ehud Barak because he was a leftist globalist who was trying to destroy the fucking country. You know what I mean? I really don't think that people understand Israeli politics at all, because if they did, they wouldn't attribute weird stuff that Ehud Barak did to Benjamin Netanyahu any more than they would contribute or attribute stuff that Obama and Biden did to Trump. You know what I mean? These are,
right.
Again, it's this same conversation of people who see things as individual when it's convenient for them, or a monolith when it's convenient for them. And this is just not consistent. It's not intellectually consistent, right? Like, if you want to take one or other of those positions, then I may disagree, but at least it's consistent. But the way it's been delivered by these folks so far is completely intellectually consistent, which is why you see when they finally get down to brass tacks, they just turn nihilist and black-pilled, because it's an indefensible position, right? If you take the position that I just don't like it, and I'm going to fight against it, that is a unique position, I guess, but it's at least defensible. But you also have to apply that to the United States, which I guess means you're a revolutionary now. And again, that's where the horseshoe is. It's revolutionary politics. The issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution with these people.
Right. On the left, it's a projection of this George Floyd dichotomy onto a country that they don't understand, and they think everyone in Israel looks like me, and that's just not true. Most of the population is, Arab, brown people. A lot of them are black. Israel is the only country in the history of the world that mass rescued Africans, imported people from Africa without the purpose of exploiting them during the famine in Ethiopia in the 1980s and 90s. It's an amazing fact. And then on the right, there's this projection of, us versus the insider globalist, the neocons, et cetera. And it becomes this sort of shallow, flat thing that you're projecting. I mean, why is Tucker at a supermarket in Moscow crowing about how great it is over there? And it's a symptom of, I pity people who have grown up who are 20 coming into the world right now because it's really, there's a lot of decay and there's a lot of uncertainty, and our institutions have debased themselves. So it kind of makes sense that all this stuff is flaring up. And my hope is that we can settle and move the needle back towards normalcy. And my small role in that, in my view, is to find the regular working people who are not radicals. They wouldn't have been Bolsheviks, they wouldn't have been Nazis in their time and era, and reach them with timeless American values, which I think align with conservative values. And that happens before we ask them to vote Republican. But
Yeah.
it does bring them into the tent and it strengthens our movement.
Yeah, and I would say even just the ancillary benefits of leaning on American principles has are very obvious, right? Even if the left or center left person aligns themselves more closely with originalist American principles, because the conservative position is we think that this 2,000-year trajectory of Western civilization, I think we got it right. And we also, and certainly there are new needs that pop up. And this is where the conversation should happen between liberals and conservatives. The Constitution gives us remedies for all of this stuff. It is a self-correcting apparatus by design. It's difficult, and it's also by design. The friction is part of the plan. It's a feature and not a bug. So
Right.
the conversation is, how do we use the constitutional remedies provided to us to meet the needs of modernity? And what's that balance like? We have a gas pedal and we have brakes in our vehicles because we need them both. So I think even just refocusing the conversation around this instead of whatever populist bullshit's going on at the time is just good for the country, man. I mean, that conversation is quite a bit more useful to people and better and good for our country than debating which group belongs, which like fucking immutable characteristic group belongs to which political party. It's nonsense.
Right.
That conversation is fucking meaningless.
Yeah, and this sort of cosplay of revolution, it's going to lead to real chaos. It already has, the rioting and destruction and post-COVID, the learning loss and social issues and the defunding the police. Like this has really led to real problems that have made people suffer. So it's not just, tweeting things ironically and laughing while things burn. Like we have to restore trust in our institutions, and we have to focus on voters and their needs, and we have to deliver for them, because then we'll have a country. And if not, we won't. So I still think America is the best place in the world to live. I believe in that. And I want it to continue. We're at the 250 mark. Let's do another 250.
Yeah.
So the question is, how do we put our feet in front of, one in front of the other, and tactically make inroads and go on offense and heal what's unhealed and repair what's broken.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, just, and not even just, again, on the conservative side, but all of American civilization, it deserves it. All the stuff that's gone into this, the war and persecution and trial and error and all the other things, all the elements that led to this country we have, it deserves better than what we're giving it right now.
Definitely.
And it's, I've got high hopes for Trump's State of the Union that's coming up soon. I think he's going to spend some time articulating a lot of this stuff, but it can't just be him. I mean, every company has a mission statement, and it is a simple statement that is a North Star for whether or not my actions and words are aligned with our purpose. You know what I mean? And I think that's something that needs to be ferreted out, particularly on the right. I think the left is very damaged right now, and it's going to take quite a bit more for them to get their shit together. But the right is pretty close. I mean, it's a lot closer than the left, in my opinion. And it would be easy to right that ship, but somebody's got to do it. It's not enough just to win. Again, you have to actually explain to people why you won and why you deserved to win and why you deserve to win again. And that brings up the next thing. What do you think is going to happen in 26?
Well, I want to know what your mission statement for the Republican Party should be. So tell me that one when I'm done responding. But I think that we're talking right now, it's mid-February. Voting's going to begin in earnest in September and October in some states. So we have a couple choice months ahead of us to define the voters that we need to reach and share our accomplishments with them in a compelling way, win them back over to our side and win more to our side, people we were never here in the first place. I think we are up against some really steep odds with the redistricting battles. I think the Democrats have absolutely won out over those because they're way more brazen. They already had, Maryland and Illinois, and now they're going to have Virginia and California. We could squeeze out more seats, but we don't have the same appetite. We don't have the same, let's see, complete lack of, what's the word when you're like, you don't have any repercussions for something. Like the Democrats in Virginia feel no repercussions for their actions. They're not going to feel any heat. So they're going to win out in just the maps. Obviously, reapportionment is an issue
Impunity.
too. Impunity. They're
Yeah.
acting with complete impunity. And why wouldn't they? They're
Yeah.
not being held accountable by us. I would be spending money. If I was the RNC, I would be spending money on Spanish media in Virginia, in Northern Virginia, and Korean and Vietnamese grassroots people saying, aren't you sensitive to government authoritarianism? Look at what the new governor is doing. Punish her for that. So that's what we're not doing. I think we're up against very steep odds. I think it's within our power still. I am working on reaching tomorrow's Republican voter every day. And I think people like me are in the trenches doing it, and it's going to be tough, but we can't be fatalistic. What I hate is people say, "Oh, the midterms, we're just going to lose the midterms." Well, that's not always been the case. We haven't always lost seats in the midterms, and we could change that if
Yeah.
we sell what we're doing better.
Yeah. I think a good mission statement is we will conserve the American Republic by respecting our heritage, the Constitution, and using our self-correcting system to meet the needs of modernity for all Americans. Simple. That took 2 minutes. Come on,
That was fast.
RNC, you can do this. I
Yes.
promise you can do this. You know what you have to do? You first have to believe it. You have to believe in the fucking country and understand where we came
Right.
from, and I'm not sure most of these people do. Politics
Right.
is a game for them. It's a career, but it's not like politics is the expression of this. Politics is eating the food, but you're not a chef. You don't understand the components of this stuff. And we need better. We are led by people who are not good. You know what I mean? And I don't mean in good and evil terms, but that too. We're scraping the bottom of the fucking barrel, to be honest, because, and this is the American population's fault. We've allowed ourselves to be duped into popularity contests instead of contests that test the mettle of human beings that serve us, right? There's got to be a redesign of how we do these things, not functionally, because a vote is a vote. People need to know what the fuck they're doing, and they don't. They sincerely need to understand that just because somebody is telling you something you want to hear doesn't make it right. You know what I mean? And this is the most important time to be calm is when everybody else is not calm. And the most important time to maintain your principles is when everybody else's are fleeting. That is what defines conservatism, is no matter what the fuck is happening out there,
Yep.
no matter what's happening, this is what we believe, right? And then the extension to that is we believe this because I've watched the last 2,000 years of Western civilization. I read as Aristotle articulated natural law. I read as Seneca came up with the concept of logos, right, to make it a natural part of human or a part of human nature. We watched as the Magna Carta put it to paper for the first time, or even a king had to agree that the law stood above him, that because it was part of the universe and not necessarily the divine right of him to define it. And then it took another 400 years for that to become a country, which is our country. It's the best country in the history of the world because of those things. And if you don't understand that, then don't tell me you're America first, because you don't even know what it is.
Yeah, I mean it's a culmination of so much, and civics education. There's so much to talk about, so much that we've neglected to do for younger people. And luckily, we have a really good cultural DNA in this country of patriotic people. They don't all look the same. They don't all look like the people we're imagining when we think of conservatives. And that's what, if there's anything I want to kind of leave listeners with is that the people who are going to sustain our country, who are the backbone of our country, are not necessarily the people we're picturing when we think Republican or conservative all the time. A lot of them are in urban neighborhoods. A lot of them are from diverse backgrounds, and that's the miracle of of a society with a guiding mission that you just described. I'll add one thing. So you have this amazing sentence that I saw you write up for Republican Party mission statement. Whatever comes after the mission statement of the boardroom, the action statement. So what do we do to advance our mission? Is we try to make life easier and better for people who are suffering in the country. And then we tell them that we did that. And that's all we need to do. But that requires people to care to do it. I think President Trump does care to do it.
I agree.
And I think his staff cares to do it. And so now it's just opening our eyes a little bit. Some of these voter groups we talked about during this conversation, we can deliver wins for them and invite them over to our side and win their loyalty, not on tax policy, on basic values, on saying, hey, you're suffering. I can hear that. Look, we're doing it. Look, we did it. Can we have your vote?
I think that's a pretty good way to go about it. Tell people about Redbridge.
So Redbridge is a political agency. We help campaigns and causes reach their next generation of supporters. We've put the political realignment into action for political campaigns and nonprofits. We reach people who you don't think necessarily agree with us yet, and we persuade them. All sorts of different groups of people for our clients, political campaigns, PACs, nonprofits, and it's really our mission every day. We're not a transactional agency. We partner with our clients and we make inroads on the civilizational issues that all your listeners care about.
Good. Well, tell everybody where they can find you before we get out of here.
You can find me on the very deep and studied platform X at Albedelphia for lukewarm takes. You can check us out at yourredbridge.com. You can email us there. And sign up for our email list because I write, speak. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you coming today. I love these conversations that center, like, we didn't have a single discussion about any particular policy except for to discuss why the fuck they're not talking about it. You know what I mean? There's far too much downstream talk of individual policy and not enough upstream talk of American principles.
Values and vision.
Yeah. I really
who
feel
we
like
can attract to our side.
Yeah, we're selling branding instead of substance. That's not a thing. This doesn't work. I mean, there's a ceiling to that. There is no ceiling to selling value. But thanks for coming today. I appreciate the time. It's a great conversation. Everybody go check out Albert Eisenberg, check out Redbridge, and thank you for listening. This has been Citizen.